Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming out on this beautiful, marvelous day. We all good back there? All right. My name is John Pessotto. I'm the acting county executive. Again, thank you for coming in this evening. This public hearing is held pursuant to Section 705C of the Wicomico County Charter and is intended to provide the citizens with information on the upcoming fiscal year 2023 budget. The comments made tonight by the public will be taken into consideration when finalizing this budget. Pam Oland, our finance director, will give an overview and go through a PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll open the floor for comments. I respectfully ask that you reserve 3 minutes per comment. Thank you very much, and Pam?
Okay, so we typically start with giving information about kind of where the county's finances are. And so our audit was issued yesterday, and with that audit, we are breaking down what the fiscal 21 general fund revenue is. And as you'll see by the pie chart, there's two main areas, local property tax and local income tax. Property tax is real property and personal property, so it's a combination of the two. We also split up our general fund operating expenses, and the lion's share is between two areas, which is education, which includes Warwick and the Board of Education, as well as public safety, which is the Sheriff's Office and Corrections are the two main departments within that number. Just so you're aware, the education number does not include the debt service amounts that we pay for the Board of Education. That is included in the debt service line on the far right. So this is a trend line of our two biggest sources of revenue. The first, the blue line at the top, is our real property tax, and the bouncing green line is our income tax. And as you'll see in fiscal 21, income tax actually surpassed our real property tax for the fiscal year. Based on our the revenue cap that is in our charter, we are only allowed the lesser of 2% or the CPIU at the preceding December to set our tax rate. So in fiscal 22, we actually could only increase our tax rate by 1.4% because of the CPIU that was in calendar 2020. The CPIU in calendar 2021 is sufficient and it's above 2%. So if we are going to increase by 2%, the tax rate that we would be allowed is 90 cents, which is, as you can see, a decrease from fiscal 2022. Current tax rate is 91.95, and the 2% increase would take it to 90.70. There are still major items on the horizon that some have impact in this budget, some still have unknown impact. And as the state has passed a minimum wage inflator, that is going to continue to impact our budgets going forward, as well as the Maryland education reform. That process is being implemented right now. So the full financial impact of that is still being determined. Unfortunately, we had to put again on this year, the COVID pandemic is still ongoing. And hopefully it's going to stay at this level, but we can't predict that with it still being out there in the society. So how that would have a future impact on us is unknown at this time. The county has completed a comprehensive salary study, and our recommendation is to do full implementation of that salary study in fiscal 23. As well as there are kind of three major unknown projects, and we would have to know where we're implementing and that kind of stuff to do rural broadband, water and sewer plan, and stormwater management issues. And so as individual projects are identified, those will be added to the CIP and the budget. But at this point in time, there are pieces of that will be considered, but it's still will be an ongoing cost for the county. For fiscal 23, some very specific budget challenges include inflation. It's impacting everybody's personal wallets, but it will also impact the county's wallet because we will have to take into consideration the rising costs that the county will have to pay our vendors, pay for utilities, pay for fuel. Again, the salary structure is one that we're looking at that needs to support retaining and recruiting employees that benefit the county and benefit county residents to be able to do the jobs that county residents need us to be able to do. And then there are some major capital projects being considered. It's the continuation of the Mardella Middle Senior High School renovation expansion, the airport runway extension, and some electrical upgrades at the old courthouse. Those are just to name a couple. It is not the complete list. The CIP actually was adopted yesterday by council. So what is in that CIP, we're going to be looking at for fiscal 23, we're going to be looking at putting in our funding for those things that are listed there. Some non-capital requests. The administration has met with most departments as of today to get what they say they need for their departments. And here are a couple. This is not an exhaustive list, but it is a list of some of the major costs that will be impacting the budget. Fuel and utility costs for all departments. The Sheriff's Department, we implemented a new FOP agreement in fiscal 22. So the next year of that agreement will have to be taken into account in the budget. As well as the State Police Accountability Act, the implementation of that and the costs associated with that implementation will need to be considered in this budget. Corrections has a state law requirement that requires implementation of additional medical programs for inmates, and that right now is estimated to have about a $400,000 impact on our budget. The required maintenance of effort for the Board of Education is almost a $1.3 million increase over the prior fiscal year. When this was written, we were just having the fall election, and last night the court, I think it was yesterday, said that the primary election is now going to be in July. So we will have to go back and actually fund both the primary and the general election in fiscal 23. There will be cost savings in fiscal 22 because of that, but the fact that the state also passed in the last General Assembly that there has to be a second early voting site in our county based on the number of registered voters, and we're required to have longer hours at our polling places, is going to increase the cost for both the early voting and the regular voting for both the primary and the general election. And we met with the volunteer fire and EMS companies, and they're requesting an increase in annual funding for each department. The last slide, actually one of the last slides, sorry, is kind of just showing the growth over time and what the funding that the county provides to the Board of Education. The green section of the is what we give them for maintenance of effort. And the blue and yellow is the principal and interest that we pay for their bonds. Fiscal 23 is still an estimate. As we refine our estimates primarily for the principal and interest number. Those numbers could change. And finally, American Rescue Plan is still out there. The county was awarded $20 million. We received our first payment in we actually received the payment in fiscal 21. The way accounting works, though, is until you budget for that you're actually going to spend it, it doesn't get recognized as revenue. So fiscal 21's results that were actually discussed yesterday by the auditors does not include any of that revenue because that has to be what's called deferred until the point in time you actually spend it. We should be receiving in May, early June, the second payment. And again, until we actually budget to spend it, that money has to sit on the balance sheet of the county. And then you have so when you're finally ready to spend it, you have the revenue and then you have the expense. So that will not impact the bottom line of the county when we decide that the appropriate uses for it. There are two very specific requirements in American Rescue Plan that we cannot spend it on. We cannot cut our tax rate using it, and we can't make a pension payment. We can't make an extraordinary payment into our pension. If we do either one of those, we will be violating federal law associated with those funds. So at this point, I will turn it over to public comments. Please, as John said, 3 minutes, and I'm opening the floor.
Questions, comments, correction, comments?
Well,
You're gonna get off easy.
hearing none. John?
Well, some of you may know me. My name is John Hilton. President of Wicomico County Volunteer Firefighters Association. I am representing all of the volunteer fire companies in this county. We do ask for an increase with the cost of everything going up, the recruitment and retention being down, the money it is taking to outfit our firefighters, to outfit our paramedics, to outfit our equipment has drastically gone through the roof. I understand it seems like a lot of money, but as I've explained to multiple people, the cost of a fire service is not cheap. A paid fire service for Wicomico County would start at a minimum of $40 million and go up to as much as $52 million just to start one. The current volunteer service asked for a number somewhere in the area of $7.5 million to operate for the next year. Yes, it is a large number, but versus having to put a paid service into effect, it is more efficient for our county, and the people that are already here know the layout of our county. So that is why we asked for this request. I please hope that people will back us because we're trying to provide the best fire EMS service to this county. I would also like to make a stand for the public safety office over at 911 that the dispatchers be looked into getting recruitment and hiring some more because they're drastically hurting for help. It takes more than 1 or 2 people to dispatch a fire scene, an ambulance scene, because of taking calls in, sending out equipment, and keeping everything straight so the community is well taken care of. I would just ask that they are looked into being also funded a little better than what they are at this current time and to get help in to keep the county safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments? Seeing none, we'll conclude tonight's budget hearing. Thank you very much for coming out, and have a Safe trip home.